Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome in to another episode here of the Turnbuckle Chatter Podcast. In this episode, I want to talk about my thoughts on Raw on Netflix so far, or really just WWE on Netflix in general, because I've been using the VPN to watch, NXT and SmackDown on Netflix as well. But more specifically, this is about Monday Night Raw on Netflix, as that's the only one that everybody has access to, or most people, right? And I think it's been long enough now. Heck, it's been over 3 months or almost 3 months that it came out on Netflix. So I think now's a good time to talk about it, give my thoughts, what's good about it, maybe what's not so good about it, all that stuff. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. So what do I think about Monday Night Raw on Netflix so far? I think it's been fantastic, honestly, and I think it's been a great move. Monday Night Raw went from averaging 1.1, 1.5 million viewers a week to the averaging 4 million viewers a week. So just this move already has basically tripled or quadrupled the viewership that they were getting, which everybody kind of saw coming. Some didn't. Some thought, oh, it's going to be the same. It doesn't make any sense for it to be the same. And it never was going to stay the same. Otherwise, they wouldn't have moved. And I think ultimately this is going to cause SmackDown and NXT in the States to go on Netflix as well. Maybe another streaming service picks them up, but I would be pretty surprised if they keep them separate. The PLEs or pay-per-views will likely end up on Netflix in the States as well. Going forward, that would be my guess. So ultimately, at least in terms of viewership, absolutely a great move. We've already heard some, shits and stuff like that on Netflix, uncensored. They are bleeping the crowd on certain things, which is still very annoying. Like they have a PG rating. I get it for sponsors and stuff. They have to keep it, but like, if there's the crowd saying it, I don't really see why it's a big deal. But it is what it is. It does make you wonder if PLEs do go to Netflix, if that's gonna be the same thing, right? Are they going to still be censoring the crowd? Do they not? Because we know on Peacock they don't censor the crowds for pay-per-views. Or will pay-per-views get like a TV 14 rating just so they don't have to censor the crowd? Who knows? Anyway, that's a negative, right? They're still censoring the crowd, but overall, they aren't censoring as much as they used to. They don't censor holy shit chants at least anymore. Typically, they're censoring f-bombs, and stuff like that. I don't know. They let the crowd say it a few times and then they censor it. They've been doing a really poor job at censoring it though. Lately, they've been censoring the wrong word, so it's like kind of a catch-22. So another good thing to Netflix is, and people are gonna think this one's a bad thing, the ads on the ring. They don't bother me. They never really did bother me. I'm already extremely used to them. Um, so the ads on the ring, I think, are good. You're not getting as many commercials. I know people are still complaining, oh, there's commercials on Netflix. There are, unless you use a VPN, or unless you're just in the, out of the States. For 80% of the world, there are no commercials anymore. But even in the States where there are commercials, it used to be you would get 2 to 3 a match. If you get a 20-30 minute match on Raw now, you get one commercial break, and it's typically within the first 5 to 10 minutes, and then the entire rest of the match is commercial free. And then you get like a segment in there, and then you get an entrance to the next match or another promo, and then you get an ad, 2.5 minutes, and then you get that entire promo. So there's definitely not as many commercials as there used to be. On SmackDown, that's a little bit different, but like that's because it still airs in the States on USA. It's not, on Netflix. So that's kind of why I'm not including NXT or SmackDown into this, because I mean, again, if you get them on Netflix, it's ad free no matter where you are, because it's not technically on Netflix in the States without using something else. So honestly, there's been that ads. I think that's been a good thing. I think the quality of the shows has been pretty good. We're finally starting to kick up into that gear for the road to WrestleMania, which that's a video for next week. Well, I'll give my thoughts on what I think of the road to WrestleMania so far, so stay tuned for that one. But overall, man, it's been I think it's been pretty good. There's a lot more positives than negatives. I can't really think of too many negatives. Like them still censoring the crowd. I mean, you know, they're not censoring everything the crowd does. It's mostly the f bombs. It's if they're not giving the f bombs, they aren't really censoring the crowd that much. We've already seen blood on Monday Night Raw a couple of different times now since the move to Netflix, when you weren't really seeing that before. And they're not overusing it. It's not anything like other companies where it's overly used. But I think it's used just the right amount and it's used in the right spots. So that's a positive. A little bit edgier stuff too. So overall, I think it's a positive move to Netflix so far. Obviously, WWE is milking money right now. It's such a cash cow. So the move to Netflix has obviously made them more money. It's gotten them more viewership. It's given them a little bit more freedom that they don't have with the networks. For example, no network, they can really get a 2.5 hour slot. You either get 1 hour, 2 hours, or a 3 hour slot. You ain't getting a 2.5 hour slot. And Monday Night Raw at 2.5 hours has been perfect. I thought I was going to miss the 3 hours because, you know, I was like, oh, 2.5 hours. I don't miss the 3 hours at all. In fact, on SmackDown, I wish SmackDown could go to 2.5 hours, and that's why when they go to Netflix or whatever streaming service they go to at the end of the 5-year deal, I believe it is. Which, by the way, if people have been paying attention, the Netflix option or the Netflix deal, in 5 years, WWE has the option to go ahead and opt for an additional 10 years, I believe. And they also have the option to cancel as well. So if they opt to go ahead and extend at the end of that 5 years, SmackDown and NXT, I can almost guarantee you are going on there. So just keep that in mind. Pay-per-views, if they go to Netflix, they will be going to Netflix sometime next year, I think right around WrestleMania. So, because that Peacock deal is very close to expiring. I'm a miss Peacock, to be honest, but I already have Netflix, so like at the same time it saves me a subscription because I don't use Peacock for anything other than the pay-per-views. So if there's no pay-per-views that month, I'm not using it. That's just how it is. So yeah, the 2.5 hours, man, it's been such a... You realize how good 2.5 hours is. I think once NXT goes to Netflix, it'll be 2.5 hours. SmackDown, once it goes, will be 2.5 hours. You get 2.5 hours for the weekly shows, and that's absolutely the perfect amount of time. The streaming services are nice because sometimes they end early, sometimes they go late. If they need to do a 3-hour show, they can. I don't think we've seen the last 3-hour Raw, but I also don't think it's going to be an all-the-time thing. I think it would be used sparingly. I wouldn't be too surprised if either the go-home show to Mania is 3 hours or the Raw after Mania. I have a feeling one of those, maybe both, but probably only one of those, will probably go 3 hours. This kind of is how I see it going. Obviously, though, we heard that the first Raw on Netflix was going to go about 4 hours, and I think it didn't even go 3 hours either. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on this. I think it's overall very good move. And I think it's been for the better, and I think as time goes on, it's just going to be better and better and better. You're going to get better matches, too. Like, match quality, that's another one I forgot. Match quality, you've been getting, like, pay-per-view level matches. Every match, basically, on Netflix. Again, a lot of that's because the limited commercial breaks, so you get to see more of the match. But also, just it seems the match quality in general has been extremely good. Storylines, they're starting to pick up. And it just seems like overall you're getting better quality because they have more freedom than they've had on networks. And so just overall, it's been a very enjoyable experience. We've had, one episode of Raw where we had any issues with Netflix, and I forgot, it was like, a month ago now, where the audio was all skippy and jumpy. Only one episode where that was an issue, though. We haven't had any other issues with, like, buffering or any kind of glitches or anything like that since that one episode. It was the one where Kevin Owens attacked Sami Zayn and hit him with the power driver. I don't remember exactly when that was, but I was obviously before War Games. Oh, not War Games. It was before Elimination Chamber. It was like 2 or 3 weeks before that, so it's been around a month. So that's kind of where we're at. Netflix, I feel like it's been very good. So let me know in the comments below. Do you think Netflix has been like? Do you think the move to Netflix has been good for WWE? Do you think it's been bad? Do you think it's been in the middle? Overall, I think it's been a great move, and I think it will continue to be a great move. And as as time goes on, more and more people will start watching on Netflix. I mean, it's every single week, so it's going to be plastered, right, on the homepage for people to see. And especially as we, enter. I mean, we're in WrestleMania season now, but I think overall, even when we get the WrestleMania lull, I think the quality is going to stay high. The WrestleMania lull last year was actually one of the most enjoyable WrestleMania lulls I can remember. Yeah, you definitely still could tell it was a lull, but also they don't last as long anymore. Now I am curious, and this is a little off track here. I am curious as to when the WrestleMania lull ends this year, because typically, from what I've noticed, since Triple H took over, when you get to whatever the Clash pay-per-view is, right? Clash at the Castle, Clash. Was it Clash in Berlin? I don't remember. I'm thinking Bash in Berlin. When was the last Clash out? Glasgow, right? So it was in Glasgow. But anytime you've gotten to those two shows, which typically happens in June, that's typically when the WrestleMania lull has ended, and then you start building the SummerSlam, and so you get that increase in quality, and then that quality kind of stays the same, because at that point now you're starting to build towards Money in the Bank, and after Money in the Bank, that's when you really start building not the SummerSlam. Yeah, to SummerSlam, because Money in the Bank's in July, so you really pick up to build the SummerSlam, and then you have SummerSlam. Then you might have a month or two where there's kind of a lull, and you're building up to October, because they're starting to make October pay-per-views kind of big. You had Bad Blood. I don't know if it's going to stay that way, but the October pay-per-view is big. Then you got War Games, and then it's basically time to start thinking about WrestleMania again. So the WrestleMania lull these days typically goes away by June. So you typically only have like a 2-month lull period before stuff really starts to pick up. So I'd have to see what pay-per-views is in June, or what pay-per-view, because there might be 2 in June depending on how they do it. Because historically, lately, WWE's done 2 pay-per-views a month until about October, and then they switched to the 1 pay-per-view a month formula. So I'll be curious to see how that looks. I would be curious to see what that looks like this year, what pay-per-view takes that Clash spot, and to see if that trend continues, because Clash this year, it's Clash in Paris, actually takes place after SummerSlam. So I'll be curious to see how that looks like. Does it have your typical, because Clash in Paris, I believe, is right after SummerSlam, so it's like you have SummerSlam and that's the next pay-per-view. And typically, the Clash pay-per-views, like I said, have ended the lulls, but you're still going to be in your SummerSlam lull for a little bit there, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because they typically use the Clash pay-per-views as, like, your next major kind of milestone. So I am curious what that's going to look like. But other than that, that's kind of all I got. So drop some likes on this video if you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live stream from me. Starting Friday, for this episode of Friday Night SmackDown, I will be starting to live stream watch-alongs every single week, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. So stay tuned for that. Unfortunately, it won't be on my computer because my computer's old and it won't allow me to live stream those stuff anymore, even when it's hardwired into the internet. So I'll be using my handy dandy phone. So stay tuned for that. I will see you guys later. Peace.